Good evening, good morning, depending on what part of the world you're at. Welcome. Late night edition of the Tech and Chill Show's Sunday night. Technically Monday morning in the UK. Hope everyone is well and good. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining this Sunday stream. Oh man, I think today was more of a mental battle of should I stream, should I not? Should I stream, should I not? It was just more of a mental battle, and I just said, you know how it feels, man. If you don't stream, there is no therapy, man. You've not had your therapy session of actually expressing yourself when it comes to the tech that's been happening. So, I just had to. I pushed myself. I kept pushing myself. Worked 7 days flat this week. Worked 8 days flat the week before. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. But I said, you know what? Got to keep the consistency in some way, shape, or form. So, your host Ben on the Lover of Tech channel, welcome. Thank you for joining tonight and this early morning edition of the Sunday night, aka Monday morning Tech and Chill show, where we discuss all things tech and consumer electronics for the week and pretty much just have a conversation where you guys get engaged and get involved. So thank you very much for joining. Let's see who's in the chat. Oh man. Tech Lover Mama, thank you very much for joining. I appreciate you coming through. Big Bro, like Tanner, thank you very much for joining through. Tech for You Needs, thank you for joining through. The young Welshman Dave West, aka Dave West Media, thank you. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you coming through. Working a graveyard shift. Eric Draymond was good. Thank you. Thank you very, very much for joining through. What's up? What's going on? Let me reply back to you guys so it feels more personal. Dave, young Welshman in the house. What's up, bro? Never settle, Ben. Never settle. Oh man, it's hard sometimes, you know. It's hard, but the show must go on, like Mr. Incredible say. Showtime. Whoo! I really feel like myself when I have to do that, man. Cool. Still figure out the kinks. So you're still gonna get me in 1080p full high definition, 60 frames a second, super smooth. So no 4K UHD back yet. I need to figure out how I'm gonna be able to get the highest speed internet that I have in the house over Wi-Fi, over wide. It's a tough crowd. It's a tough crowd. So you're gonna have to settle for 1080p. Wow. First world problems. First world problems. Hope everyone is well and good. As you've seen in the title, man, one of the things that I definitely want to talk about is the Qualcomm X60 modem, which is obviously the upgrade to the X55 modem, which you're going to be seeing in all the Snapdragon 865 chipsets. The enabler of 5G, whether it's sub 6 or millimeter wave. And they've announced it. And the most interesting part is that it seems to be the first overall product that is built on a 5 nanometer manufacturing process. That, to me, is the most interesting part for different reasons, which we're going to talk about in terms of the landscape of how 2020 is going to finish when it comes to system on a chip, performance, internal processors, and also for 2021 that's gonna definitely be very interesting. So I definitely I felt the need to incorporate that and kind of see where and what Qualcomm have in mind in regards to the X60 modem. Ooh man, should be very interesting. I think everything else tonight will be based on the kind of conversations you guys want to have. Probably wanted to talk about the S20 Ultra and kind of the early camera samples in terms of the pictures that have been taken of that, which have been looking very, very impressive. And as much as I don't like to talk about leaks, I like to still incorporate the things that, I get very excited about, which, as you guys know, is cameras. And Wednesday couldn't come any sooner. the leaks of the Fujifilm X-T4. Bye bye Sony. I'm looking to, you know, I'm looking to really switch from my Sony to this Fuji X-T4. It is looking like the second coming of APS-C hybrid cameras. So, as Colonel Stinkmeaner will say, let's get this party started. Yes. So, Qualcomm Snapdragon X60 modem. This is it here. Official tweet from Qualcomm. And this was on the 18th of February. So 18th of February, this was exactly last week, Tuesday. So this was last week, Tuesday, and it caught me by surprise. I think it caught a decent amount of people by surprise because maybe we would have thought that they would have maybe held this off until their, you know, the Qualcomm summit. But I don't think they did. So I think the Qualcomm Summit was all to do with the integration of their 5G modem into the Snapdragon 765 chipset, as well as you know, the external integration of the X55 modem, which is obviously not built into the system on the chip on the Snapdragon 865. And a lot of people were like, well, how comes the 765 has it built in the 865, which is the flagship one, has an external modem? And I said it, look, there's a limitation. Like, that is the 7nm plus process. It's a limitation. There's more things happening with the 865 that is not happening on the 765. Qualcomm are not going to come out and say it, but in terms of heat management and performance, having an external modem is probably better. And it makes sense. This X60 modem is based on a 5nm process. So let's have a read at the tweet. It's time to kick it up a notch. Notch. Man. Notch. Introducing the Snapdragon X60 5G modem RF system, lifting the performance floor for global 5G networks so more users around the world can get 5G sooner. Qualcomm are very adamant. They're very, very, very adamant in bringing 5G to the masses forward a lot quicker. So I put a tweet out and I pretty much stated, yes, LB in the house. What's good? Happy birthday, LB. Happy belated birthday, LB. Thank you for joining. Thanks for joining, bro. Cool. Again, I will interact with your comments. Anyone that hasn't been on the Tech and Chill show knows that I don't ignore comments. I pretty much blast through at least 3 topics, and then after each topic, digest all the comments that you're saying, and then pretty much bring it back in. So, again, I mean, I said this already, that one advantage of the UK and Europe having an Exynos model, the Exynos models have 4G variants. Qualcomm made it explicitly clear that this time round, every single phone that is going to use the Snapdragon 865 will be 5G, even if it just means 5G with sub-6 and not millimeter wave. If you're going to use the 865, it is going to determine to make sure that the 5G acceptance and adoptance rate is a lot quicker. So in the year 2000, remembering 5G launched much as the world, early 2020, over 45 operators have launched 5G in services, blah, 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 blah. Cool. So yeah, X50, that's what you found in the OnePlus 7 Pro. X55 is what you're going to be seeing in the future generation and current generation products, S20 series and all other new products that are going to be coming out that are going to be using it. And then the third generation, which is the X60. So yeah, I mean, it's based on what? Standalone and non-standalone, as always, as we know. In terms of SA, standalone and non-standalone. Sub-6 and millimeter wave. Millimeter wave is where obviously the speed is at, but sub-6 is what gives the better coverage. This more or less needs, you know, line of sight, but this is what gives those crazy blistering 2000 megabits per second downloads. I don't know what they're doing about the gigabit uploads, if it's still based on 4G LTE, long-term evolution. Yeah, but leading 5G performance with the Snapdragon X60, Qualcomm technology, smaller footprint. This is a big deal. I think this is the one that really, because I feel like obviously the 7 nanometer process is not long in the tooth in any way, shape, or form. But I think the 7 nanometer process is in its final stages of efficiency, and that is with the Exynos 990. This is a big indication that there's been some form of breakthrough with the manufacturing process, because the manufacturing process for transistors is going to get much more difficult going forward. It is. So this is great to see. So this at least breathes life into chipset manufacturing for another 3 to 4 years potentially, based on optimization and perfection and yield manufacturing. Support for 5G, FDD, TDD, sub-6 carrier aggregation helps network maximize spectrum resources. Absolutely. Standalone networks, where there be M555mm antenna module introduced with the X60, has is smaller than previous generation, allows new sleek millimeter wave smartphone designs with improved millimeter wave performance. Okay. Yeah, this is impressive. This is impressive. Qualcomm are low key on smoke. They are showing that they want to extend their lead in terms of chipset manufacturing. Sorry, global communication and system on a chip integration, and it's impressive. I think it's impressive. I think it's impressive that they're making strides this quick. You know, what does that basically mean? It means exactly what it is there, right? It means exactly what it is. They want 5G adoption to come around a lot quicker than 4G. They want to make sure effectively by next year, even your £300 phone. And again, this is where the Snapdragon 765 chipset is really going to come into play. You're going to be seeing this chipset used in a lot of phones within the $300 to $400 price range, where you're still going to get comparable performance to maybe the 855 and potentially the 845, but with integrated 5G for the masses. So what's going to happen is, as it starts to trickle down by next year, which I was expecting by 2022, the reason why I was saying 2022 is all phones you get now on a 24-month contract will be finished by 2022, right? So I'm thinking by then, but they're trying to push it forward a lot quicker, where you're going to be getting mass adoption of 5G spoon-fed to you by force, where you're not going to have the choice. So long as they can get it to the point where the efficiency is there, the X60 is inspiring for the efficiency. The efficiency matters. How it does smart intelligence network switching matters, whether it's hunting for 5G, 4G, or 3G, or even 2G, depends on how accessible and less taxing on the battery on the low-end phones that are even $200 to $300 or pounds or euros, or £300 to £400 or euros or dollars. Hence why the Snapdragon 765 has less intensive stuff in there compared to the 865, so it's able to integrate it with the X55 modem into an efficient packaging to build into the phone, which is very good. This is going to take it to another level. So I know that this isn't the most exciting topic to talk about. I think this is where it's important. Qualcomm have kind of played their hand first to show that the next manufacturing process, there is a great breakthrough with it. And what that is a very big indication of is that the new iPhone 12 coming out in September will be the first mainstream available product with a 5 nanometer process. I can guarantee that. A shame it's going to be powered by iOS, which is limited by iOS-ness, But I think platforms like iPadOS could benefit a lot more from it, for Apple to actually unlock a lot more capabilities, because that would have been the 2-year upgrade cycle from the iPad Pro. So the new iPad Pro, whether it's running the A14 or A14X chip, could really benefit from this 5 nanometer manufacturing process, where I believe Apple can do more in terms of expanding the capabilities of iPadOS. iOS in itself, to me, is dull and dud. All it is just a praise of ecosystem for iMessage and FaceTime and iCloud. So it's going to be a shame that the A14 coming out is going to be the most powerful chipset in an operating system that you can barely flex having to customize the home screen. A great and efficient OS with the best-in-class app store, but gives the user no distinction on how to use, which is a shame. So I'm probably more excited for what they can do with the A14X that will be going in the new 2020 iPad Pro in both the sizes. Definitely, they're on smoke. They put a lot of money into that aspect. They do. They 100% do. And I am more than confident that the new iPhone 12 definitely will be the first mass already mobile devices or devices to be on a 5nm chipset. And if Apple carries on the trend, actually design these products in a new manner, just like what Samsung did with the S20 series. Samsung's smallest phone has a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, which is bigger than Apple's biggest phone. If Apple can pursue what they've been doing in terms of, kind of listening to what people want, redesign these products, put even bigger batteries in them to back up the even more efficient processors that are going to be put in there in terms of their system on the chips, this is going to be class leading for them. Ditch Lightning, put USB Type-C, USB Type-C 3.1 or 3.2, Gen 1, Gen 2, 2x2, right? Put a high refresh rate ProMotion display. Please, at least 90Hz OLED, even if you're going to be putting your funny, odd quad high definition plus resolutions that are not really quad high definition, where you still can't watch 1440p YouTube videos. Fine. Do something. Do something. Don't put 4 gigs of RAM in there. Put at least 6 or put 8, and just don't base it on iOS doesn't need it. iOS does need it. The app management in terms of multitasking or app switching is very aggressive on iOS. Very aggressive on iOS, which when Samsung are doing things like 16 gigabytes of RAM, people are like, oh my gosh, it's overkill. But app pinning is awesome. That is one way of, and I've said this in a previous live stream, that is one way of going overkill, but still using it to translate. Like I said, 5 apps that you can stick in memory permanently that will never reload, whether you like it or not. That is great. If you're a power user that relies on making sure that your notifications, how you go in between certain apps is so consistent and quick that you never ever have to skip a beat. On top of having a 240 Hz touch response sample rate and 120 Hz capability, mind you, in 1080p, that is 3 things strung together to give probably the fastest and smoothest user experience that you can get on any phone. Forget bar Android and iOS, any phone. You see. So I'm more excited because Qualcomm Summit for the Snapdragon 875, if that's what we're going to call it, unless they change it, right, will be very interesting to see if they're able to get enough yields with the support of, fabrication processes from obviously Samsung, TSMC, which is obviously the Taiwanese semiconductor manufacturing company, as well as global foundries, to be able to get enough yields to have the next generation of Snapdragon processors on the 5nm process. Then you do a plus, you do a refinement, and you do another refinement, and then maybe, depending on how obviously chipset yields go on a hardware level, right, if they're able to break through and get it down to a 4 or even a 3nm process, starts the whole cycle again, right? Props to Qualcomm. Great to see progression. Great to see the focus on hardware and telecommunications as well as system on the chip being class leading. This puts more pressure on Apple now to not have an excuse not to have a 5G phone. Whether 5G is important or not, Apple need to have a device with 5G capability in there because the efficiency is there. They need to have sorted out this legal issue between Intel and Qualcomm because Intel's modems are rubbish. They're nowhere near as good as what Qualcomm are putting out. Facts. We all know this. The ones that really know. So that's kind of my mindset of where things are right now, man. As well as the hardware progression becoming a lot quicker with things like folding screen devices. To see this as well shows that a lot of the things I kind of predicted to be further down the line in 2022, 2023 are all on a year or 2 year earlier cycle. That just gives more room for product refinement, which I think product refinement after progression, evolution, revolution, or the lack of overused word innovation is probably the most important thing especially when you're doing scale of economies of scale, right? Where you want it to be more accessible, you want companies to get more competitive, and you want to drive price value, not necessarily price down, but price value, where people are actually getting what they paid for. It forces carriers and it forces these OEMs to compete, communicate their products better, have more accessible products that are high-end use, but have the accessibility where more people can get access to them and use it, as well as cost, right? So that's the first topic, man. Snapdragon X60 5G modem built on the new 5nm manufacturing fabrication process. Wow. Well, great time to be alive, well, especially when it comes to mobile tech. Now jumping into the comments. Intermission. Toast, butter, jam. And a cup of tea. What, for real? 5nm process? Yes, Eric, 5nm process. We are about to say goodbye to the 7nm process. 7nm process has been faithful to us for a little while now. So we'll be saying bye-bye to the 5nm process. So from what I believe, the 5nm process was initially introduced. The 7nm process was introduced with iPhone XS or XS XS 2018, because the iPhone 10 in 2017 was the first 10nm chipset. 7nm was then introduced by the iPhone XS or XS, and then 7nm plus architecture was on the iPhone 11 series, very much the same as the 845, which is the 7nm, 855, which is the 7nm plus, and now we're moving into the 5nm process, which makes sense. So yeah, makes absolute sense. I gotta say, I'm really impressed with the S20 images. So S20 images far better than the S10, which was a little underwhelmed with, to be honest. What's good, people? Man like LB, shout out to LB. LB, I gotta taste your popcorns, man, for real. Do you do international shipping? I'll pay for international shipping, bro. I'll swear down. Woof, shots fired. Which shots was I firing? I tend to be quite fair and split down the middle when I'm critiquing. LOL. Cool. Poll. Is Ben's mug big enough? Which mug? This mug or this mug? Yep. Hmm. Oh, do, 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 do. Right. Cool. Let's talk about S20 Ultra cameras, because I specifically have to nail it down to the S20 Ultra because no one is focusing on the S20s. And I think the characteristics might be different. I genuinely feel the characteristics might be different. I genuinely do. I think the characteristics will be different, honestly. I believe the characteristics will be different. So S20 Ultra. S20 Ultra is looking beast when it comes to the camera, especially the selfie. Wow. I think the selfie camera is really, really taking a step up. But let's do a comparison refresher, i.e. the faithful GSM Arena. Bang. Let's switch to desktop. Choose slow transition, as I always like. S20 Ultra. Bang. Now, for all intensive purposes, apart from the time of flight sensor, the S20 and the S20 Plus are the same cameras. Let's go into compare. And we are looking at the Samsung Galaxy S20 Plus. Cool. All right. Very expensive phones, man. Very, very expensive phones. Okay, now let's go down to camera. This, I don't know, shout out to people that saw my tweet, but they need to sort that out. At least do quad high definition plus a 90 hertz. Because my case and argument is that when you're in the QHD 60 hertz mode, let's be honest, this display is no different to last year. It isn't. Maybe the display design, but in terms of the display quality, it's pretty much no different to last year. And this, literally, it's okay. This is just a place where you make excuses for, where you're gonna make excuses and say you don't notice a difference, which is probably true, and it doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, phones like the Razer Phone 1 and 2 have been doing quad high definition plus and 120 hertz on less efficient panels. You know, Samsung saw it out. Just saw it out. Yeah. Again, 7nm plus, Exynos 990, or Snapdragon 865 plus, which I think this chipset, like I said, as a conspiracy theory, this is what's holding back the efficiency of making sure that you can do quad high definition and high refresh rate at the same time. Will Samsung come out and admit it? No. Right. So, main cameras. Now, this is where things get really interesting. Oh, Thanos is in the house. You throw another moon at me, and I'm gonna lose it. The Thanos of tech YouTube. You should redub yourself. What's good, Trenton? AKA Mr. Tech Run, AKA Thanos, AKA that's gonna be you on Saturday, bro. I'm in my feelings, bro. I'm in my feelings, bro. Be ready for this smoke. I'm gonna take my nap, and I'm gonna be awake because I'm gonna be in the future, and I'm gonna be on smoke. Saturday night tech fight. Thanos versus Iron Man, aka Trenton Marshall, aka Tech Front versus the Idris Elba of Tech, aka Lover of Tech, aka Benjamin Obaji. Tune in. Tech Kim Mike's channel. Tune in. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be good. Love it, man. These tech night fights bring out craziness in you. Right, let's break it down and kind of refresh ourselves. We're talking about the S20 Ultra because for all the praise that the S20 cameras have been getting, it's all been down to the S20 Ultra. Here's where my general consensus is that it will potentially change. Main camera sensor, 108 megapixels. This is a big deal. Like, if anyone understands how camera sensor sizes work, this is edging very, very much closer to a 1-inch sensor that you would get on an RX 100 point and shoot camera. This is a good look. This is great progression. This is, currently speaking, the biggest smartphone sensor that you can put in a smartphone right now. 1/1.33 inch sensor. That is ridiculously big. compared to the 1/1.6 inch, 1.7 inch, 1/1.76 inch sensor, which is still phenomenally big compared to the 1/2.55 inch sensor that Samsung have been using since the Galaxy S7 from March 2017. This is a big step up, right? But the 9:1 pixel ratio, where you're condensing 9 million pixels into one to give you 12 megapixel images, where the pixels actually increase to 2.4 microns, is ridiculous. This at 1.8 is ridiculous, up from the 1.4 before, but it's using conventional 12 megapixel standard f1.8, no variable aperture like what they had before, in terms of the dual aperture here. The zooms, yeah, whatever, I guess, so yeah, the zooms are the zooms. The zooms are the zooms. Per vision, extreme per vision, call it whatever. Ultra wides are the same. They did drop the resolution on the ultra wides, but physically these ultra wide sensors have become much bigger as well. So they're 1/2.55 inch, which is really, really big for an ultra wide. Much bigger pixel sizes as well. And it's running the super stable video mode, which is using an advanced electronic image stabilization. 12 megapixels down from the 16, but bigger sensors, so much worth the trade-off. And like I said, for all intensive purposes, the S20 and S20 Plus are the same camera, bar this time of flight sensor for depth. That's the differentiating factor right here. But when it comes to the selfie, this to me is where the crunch is, right? Because with the pixel binning that it's doing, it's going from 4:1, 40 megapixels down to 10 megapixels, but the pixels effectively, I'm not saying become bigger, but effectively become 1.4 microns, which is bigger than here. So I think this is the deciding factor. The test hasn't really shown much of what the S20 and the S20 Plus, because these differences can come into play on top of the processing pipeline as well. I think personally, the S20 Plus, so the S20 Ultra, so far does deserve the accolades of probably having the best smartphone camera overall. But I think that crown can probably only go to the S20 Ultra potentially. Or and the S20 as well. All I'm basically saying is that I would 100% like to see more tests on the S20 Plus and the S20. I think obviously it makes sense that they're sending the S20 Ultra out to reviewers because that's their best. You want to put your best foot forward, 100%. And you want to put your best foot forward because it's the phone that shuts people up in terms of cameras not being innovated well enough and quick enough by Samsung. When you've got juggernauts like Huawei that have come out of nowhere and really, really chucked a lot into hardware, and have only been slowed down because Donald Trump is on smoke. Trump is on smoke. Go watch Cat Williams' stand-up. That guy does not give up. Right? So we're just focusing on the cameras here. On paper, it looks like the S20 Ultra is backing up the smoke that it has on paper, that it's using what's on paper to really, really, really bring out some interesting results. Personally, I've not seen camera comparisons that have made me go, "Ooh, wow, this camera comparison, how it's been done is impressive." Makes me miss doing camera comparisons. So I'm definitely eager to see Super South's comparison, Dave West's comparison, because they go in depth and they do it widescreen so you can actually see everything. I know it sounds petty saying that, but all this cropping and it just jars my soul. Mr. Who's the Bosses as well. Juan Carlos Bagnell, 100% looking forward to see what he does with his in-depth camera comparisons and camera test. But so far, it looks like Samsung are backing up the smoke, especially with the S20 Ultra when it comes to what's on the spec sheet down. And the biggest one, to me, is not the main sensor, it's that selfie. That selfie camera is doing bits, not just in terms of the dynamic range, the color rendition, the accuracy, the sharpness as well, but the dynamic range that you're getting all the way up into 4K UHD, 60 frames a second, and the stability that comes with it. Yes, the camera is probably not as wide on a selfie, but the trade-off was that if they were going to put a wider camera, the camera sensor was going to be bigger, meaning a bigger punch hole. I think the sacrifice for it is perfect. I think the sacrifice for it is perfect. But that selfie camera on the S20 Ultra, wow. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. If Google can sort out the application program interface in terms of the API communication with third-party apps like your Snapchat, your Instagrams, and whatnot, wow. That selfie camera's boss. It seems like the pixel binning is really, really doing its job. It seems like it's a high-quality sensor. It seems like the ISP image signal processing pipeline with the 865, it's doing something. It's doing something, and it looks impressive. Yes, I don't have samples, and I can't be asked to load up certain people's videos to be looking through. But for real, I don't know what you guys think, but as all the accolades that it deserves, I feel like the difference in how these cameras are built and how they're processing from the pixel binning to the non-pixel binning. So, for example, the pixel binning is all happening. The Ultra's relying on heavy pixel binning. I don't know what that means in terms of processing time, shutter lag, and if there is any delay, right? But the S20 and the S20 Plus is pretty much doing a lot of things without the pixel binning, because the standard sensors are all 12 megapixels. The ones that matter are 12 megapixels. That zoom is just zoom for days, right? So it's more cropping incentive to make sure that it's doing it via hybrid zoom. But the standard cameras, we're talking about the standard wide as well as the ultra wide, they are not using pixel binning. The selfie is not using pixel binning. How much of a difference is the pixel binning, whether it's the 9:1 ratio, the 4:1 ratio on the selfie? Is it making that much of a difference? Is that the deciding factor? And is that pretty much proving that lots of megapixels, when used with the right processing, a quality sensor and a bigger size, actually is an effective way to actually do it? Maybe Samsung are proving that pixel binning is a very clever way to not just market a really, really high resolution camera for marketing in terms of top trumps, but actually translating it into usable and high yielding, very quality rendered images across the board. Very interesting. But please, if anyone is planning on getting any of the S20 phones, someone please be brave enough to get even an S20 or an S20 Plus, and let's see if there is a difference. Because I firmly believe how the hardware is and how the image processing is, there will be a difference between the camera quality in the S20 to the S20 Ultra, where certain new manufacturers that will come in could sneak in between there and actually steal the crown for Android, where the S20 Plus will be stuck on such a high pedestal because outright for 128 gig, which I think was a mistake, it's a £1,200 phone with 512 gig being at 1,400. 1,400. They should have done 256 and 512. I don't know why they did 128 at that price, and I don't know why they didn't throw the 45-watt charger in there, and I don't know why they didn't optimize the 45-watt charger to be even better, because the thing only charges quicker by like 5 minutes in the end. I don't know. I think it's just the downside of using power delivery. Those are my 2 cents. So I'm gonna go into there and see what's in. What's up, Ben? He said he's in my feed. He said in my feed. Yes, I'm in my feels, bruv. I already know these cameras are going to be fire. What I'm more concerned about is how good the battery life is going to be with that 5,000 milliamp hour battery and that quad high definition display. It's going to be better than last year, because when you're in that quad high definition display, is no different to last year. It's no different to a Note 10 Plus in terms of that display. That display is probably going to be a little bit more efficient in terms of what it's outputting. It's going to be no different when you're in quad high definition in 60 hertz, and it's most likely going to be better because you have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which is an extra 700 milliamp hours over the 4,300 in the Note 10 Plus. So I think it's going to hold up fine. We're already seeing battery results from these who have the Ultra. 5.5 hours of screen on time, 120 hertz with 40% battery left in the tank. Exactly. And that's because it's running at full high definition plus. It's going to run better than before. The battery is going to hold up fine, and it should give them more room to do testing over the next month, next quarter, maybe next half a year before the Note 20 comes out. And then they can push out you can do quad high definition and 90 hertz, or you can do quad high definition and 120 hertz, but we do not recommend it because the battery life will pretty much be either the same as last year or slightly better. Okay, I see. I ain't been watching it. That's closely what I've been looking at the camera comparisons that's been dropping. I think the 4G S20 is a nice sleeper that no one is paying attention to. And I don't think it's because no one is paying attention to, bro. I've tweeted out on it. It's not that no one's paying attention to it. You guys in USA are not getting that phone. You're not getting that phone in your carrier stores unless you're willing to buy it outright, unlocked, which I don't know how that's going to affect Verizon and Sprint because they're WCDMA networks or CDMA networks and they're not GSM based like AT&T and T-Mobile. But I said it, in the UK, because we have the Exynos model, we have 4G and 5G models. And the base model S20, and I tweeted this out, the base model S20, 6.2 inches, 4,000 milliamp hour battery, 8 gigabytes of RAM, Exynos 990, 7nm plus chipset, 128 gigabytes of storage with expandable storage, which I think expandable storage is a half-baked solution. Like, Android supports what is known as adaptable storage, where you can format your SD and your internal storage together. The Razer Phone 1 and 2 does it. And I don't understand why this feature is just not enabled. So it makes having an SD card only as useful for your pictures and videos, but not to be able to actually have as complete storage, which I think, in my opinion, is much, much more useful, right? That 4G model, right, is $799 outright, unlocked, dual SIM, dual nano hybrid SIM. £100 more, $899 if you get the 4G model. If you get the 5G model that only supports sub 6 gigahertz band. So it changes the narrative completely, where the S20 series starts at $799 and it goes all the way up to $1,400 if you go for the 512 gig 5G model of the S20 Ultra. But at $799, that 4G model, just from the jump, is an instant recommend. Instantly recommend it. I've held all three and used all three models, and that S20 at 6.2 inches feels like a 6-inch phone. That's what she said. Trenton, I've got one of them on order. I think there'll be lots of people curious about that run of a pack. Yeah. I would say, David, if you can still get an S20 Ultra, please do a comparison of S20 Ultra versus the S20 pixel binning versus non-pixel binning. You know? Because it looks like Samsung are proving that when pixel binning is done right with very, very, very high-end processing and hardware and software, and it seems to be the way to be going forward. So you can top trumps and really, really crush your competition and make it to the normal consumer buying it that, 108 megapixels. You know, but really the clever processing that you're doing is still giving them the benefit of having your standard 12 and 10 megapixel images that don't take up that much storage on your phone. But when they want to tap into these crazy resolutions once in a while, they can do that. You know, which I think is very clear. I think they've done on paper exceptionally well. I just want a comparison to see pixel binning versus pixel binning, which is the way to go. You know. All right, cool. Intermission. Any questions? Any questions on the S20 cameras? For USA, for you guys to have not benefited from a 4G model with the S20, blame it on Qualcomm. I don't believe it's Samsung's fault. Qualcomm decided to make that petty decision that every Snapdragon 865 chipset phone has to be 5G. If you had a 4G model, the S20 would have started at $899 because it starts at $799 for the 4G model, £899 for the 5G model, which makes sense of why it's $999 or $1,000 for the S20 model. You see, so because there isn't an Exynos model in the USA, there's no need for anyone to talk about the 4G models of the S20. There just isn't, because these are phones that no one can walk into a carrier store and buy unless they're willing to just shell out all that money and buy it from Amazon and pray that it works on their network. And I don't know if it's going to be working on these CDMA networks, because not all 4 carriers in USA support GSM. You know, so I think it's more up to the European and especially the UK crowd to give more attention to that normal S20 model, because it's a 4G dual SIM nano hybrid SIM phone, 4,000 milliamp hour battery, 8 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of base storage, Exynos 990, which is 7 nanometer plus, 6.2 inch Infinity O flatter display, dynamic AMOLED ×2 display, where it can go up to 120 hertz at 1080p or quad high definition plus at 60 hertz. Great feel in the hand, great new cameras on paper. Only difference is you don't get the time of flight sensor compared to the S20 Plus, but there is no difference apart from that from the rear facing cameras, as well as obviously the front facing camera as well. But again, wrapping it up, I want to see, is most of the heavy lifting is what is making the S20 Ultra cameras so good right now in terms of what we're seeing, until it comes out and we see all the final stuff on there. Is most of the heavy lifting pixel binning? Is pixel binning cheating? Or is it a very clever way to market your product as a top trumps heavy hitter, but then cleverly still give that experience of what's relevant? The relevancy of 12 megapixels is still enough, 10 megapixels is enough, and then the process of having much bigger sensors for a much cleaner image, natural bokeh depth of field, as well as obviously space conservation, all other stuff. Right? Let me know. Last topic is going to be on the Fuji X-T4. Whew. I am so glad I pressed through, man. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, it's been a mental challenge, but I said I know how I feel when I'm talking in front of this mic, because I talk a lot. I need to vent out. You guys engage the best, and I'll feel better in there, and I'll sleep much better. Right, man. Any questions at all, man? Drop them. Shout to Tyson Fury. Wow, that rematch needs to happen. Deontay Wilder needs to come bodied and ready. People can talk about, he got hit in the back of the head and stuff like. Don't matter. If your corner didn't believe in you and they threw in the towel, you've got a bigger problem in your hands. So shout out to Tyson Fury, man. Great success story. I still like Deontay Wilder, but stay humble, come stronger. That's it. Stay humble, come stronger. Yeah, stay humble, come stronger. That's the saying I'm going to give to Deontay Wilder. And it'll be fine. It'll bounce back. Always remember, you don't have to be an undefeated boxer to be going down as one of the greatest boxers. Mike Tyson is remembered as one of the best and greatest heavyweight boxers to be ever set foot in a squared ring. Muhammad Ali is the greatest ever. He got knocked out by Joe Frazier, well deservingly, and the rematch with Joe Frazier was bloody. Ali couldn't come with the same kind of attitude. But yeah, greats of all time. Sugar Ray Leonard, the same. Sugar Ray Robinson, the same. So I don't believe you have to be an undefeated boxer to go down as one of the greatest boxers to have ever done it. Lennox Lewis, the same. Undisputed. Still got beaten. So stay humble, come stronger. That's it. That's all you got to do. And you got to respect your opponent. AJ got schooled by Ruiz, came back, done him. Now, Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, that fight has to happen. Dillian White deserves his rematch against Anthony Joshua as well. Anthony Joshua needs to stop hiding for fights now. He needs to come out because, yeah, it's Fury's gonna come after him to be the undisputed. So he's gonna be the only one that's gonna be able to stop him. He's gonna be the only one that's gonna be able to stop him. And Fury's looking on form. He's just looking on form. He's just looking on form, man, and you could just tell he's just a technically well-bred boxer. Boom, 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 do 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 do. Okay. Oh, all right. Let's switch it. Bang. Bang. There's the one. Oh, just a quick fire one. I'm not a leaks person, but man, bring on the 26th of what you call it? February on a Wednesday, man. The Fuji X-D4. This is looking like the camera that will make me completely ditch Sony. So let's have a look, man. More leaked images. Oh, this is looking awesome. Very, 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 very much reminiscent to the X-D4. Yeah, bigger battery. Check. Still with the dual SD card slots, UHS-II speeds. Check. Fully articulating very angle display. Check. And in-body image stabilization. IBIS up to 6.5 stops. Check. Done. That's it. That's all they needed to do, and they've done it. And I'm hoping there is some form of unlimited recording modes on the video recording modes. No 6K, that's fine. But you do have a very, 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 very high frame rate video shooting mode. Where is it? Where is it? Fuji X-D4 official product images leaked. Wow. Man, oh man, oh man. I'm excited for this camera. Whew. It is as good as out. It is as good as out. It is as good as out. I would still definitely get it with the battery grip because the grip seems a bit shallow still, but it's actually a bit thicker than before. Insane. Insane. It's a leaked camera that I'm actually glad that it's leaking. Yeah, yeah. Ooh, ooh. Yep. Oh yeah. Flip screen stays protected, which is one advantage. I always say joystick. Man. Yep, I'm selling my 6400. I'm getting rid of. Oh, yep, 100% getting rid of. 100% getting rid of. Much bigger battery. And you still got the battery grip, which is so clever. How they do their battery grip is so clever. Allows you to keep one battery in there. Electronic power attachment here. Battery grip has a DC cable in where you can just power unlimited, and there's 2 batteries in there. So you can hot swap the battery and still have one running internally. And because the SD cards are mounted on the side, they're not in there, you don't have to take the battery up. It's, yeah, I'm getting this camera. No one can tell me otherwise. No one can even come to me to tell me otherwise. Not even close to come to me to tell me otherwise. Yep. Fuji X-T4. I'm not really down to celebrate leaks as much, but this is it. As cameras conspiracies to say, all I want is the perfect camera. And this is my perfect camera. I will definitely be selling all my Sony glass, everything, and I'm just going to get this and just call it a day. I will not need to upgrade for another 5 years potentially. Right? Headphone port, headphone jack built in body image stabilization, lovely in between of APS-C, which I love. APS-C is a great in between. The video recording modes are ridiculous. The camera looks buff. Let me see if the specs, if there was one about the specs. There was one about the specs. Also about the specs. Okay, let me see the specs. X-T4 will have a slight price increase, which I think is worth it. 100% worth it. It looks like they've added a 1080p 240 frames a second video recording mode, and they've also added a 400 megabits per second video recording mode for the 4K 60 frames a second, which was going up to 200 megabits per second, but I think there is a 400 megabits per second in there as well. Yeah, honestly. Yep. That's it. All I wanted to do was show the Fuji X-T4, and 26th of February, pre-orders go live. I'm like all my Sony glass, everything. This lovely Sigma f1.4 60mm is going to be up for sale. My extended zoom f4 18-105 is going for sale. My 30mm Sigma going for sale. My camera body and accessories going for sale. So if anyone is looking for Sony a6400 system, which is still pretty much fairly new, hit me up and we can work something out. Because I'm going for this X-T4. Facts. Nothing is stopping me. Nothing's convincing me. Sony have just been caught with their pants down. And this is a good look from Fuji. At that price point, this is, in my eyes, a full frame killer. That is it for me, guys. Quick things. Damn, that camera sounds good as hell. Price tag. You're looking at around $1,500, $1,700. Definitely under 2Gs. Yeah. Yeah, bro. Fire sale. Seriously. Like, I've as much as I like the A6400, it's not a camera I love. It's like the fact that there isn't a headphone port in there. I have to use a monitor all the time to monitor audio, which is not like a deal breaker, and also not having the option to have 4K 60 when cameras like the GH5 have been doing it since the beginning of 2017 sucks. Really does. Like, it really does. Just shooting B-roll, client work, having the ability to shoot slow motion at very high quality to match it to your normal footage and high quality 4K UHD. And there's also a blistering fast option of 240 frames a second, 1080p, which even makes, cameras like the GH5 look outdated now, finally, because that was doing 180 frames a second. In-body image stabilization, headphone jack, HDMI out, mic port, dual SD card slots, which is professional, in-body image stabilization, which is a professional. So all the lenses that you use, first party, third party, are all going to be stabilized. You have autofocus as well. Great battery life, flippy screen so you can vlog and self-monitor yourself without needing a monitor. It is literally your all-in-one camera that does everything you need to do. Everything you need to do, And all of that in a camera sensor that is bigger than a Micro Four Thirds that you find in the GH5, and the GH5 has with autofocus and IBIS, it cuts across both. And Fuji's first-party X-mount native lenses all match up in terms of the look that you get on full frame very well. Yeah, Fuji and effectively have created the closest thing to the perfect camera that everyone can use. You're a YouTuber, you can use this. High-end photographer, you can use this. High-end videographer, you can use this. All in one. You don't need separate devices or separate cameras. It's all in one. And then 2 years down the line, I'll probably pick up a second one just as my B cam. Yep, I am switching, and I'm not saying that just to, I'm switching. Not, I'm switching. Well done, Fuji. Well done, Fujifilm. Anyone that's looking to actually buy a camera one time that's going to last them for time, this would be a camera I'd recommend in any field, especially if you're filmmaking. You will grow into this camera over like half a decade or probably more before you even consider having to switch it. And by then, you'll probably just want to get another one to use as your second B cam. I'm very impressed. Sony have just been caught with their pants down. And yeah, I'm going to switch. Same way how Canon got caught with their pants down and people switched to Sony 2 years ago. Sony are going to be in trouble when it comes to this, especially when it comes to their APS-C line. And with the Canon R5, they might just get hurt when it comes to full frame as well. They might just get hurt when it comes to full frame as well. So Sony need to really get on the drawing board and make sure that they wrap up their game. Righty. That's it, man. That is it. 1 hour 5 minutes, right on the cusp of time. Thank you very much. I'm going to leave in terms of the 5-minute Q&A. So if you have any questions about anything tech related, myself, yourself, any last minute topics that you want to drop down, anything that interests you, if you want to do a topic recap, we did talk about the Snapdragon X60 5G modem, the first modem to be supported and the first product that's been announced to be supported on a 5nm manufacturing process, ushering the next generation of fabrication process and transistor manufacturing size. S20 series cameras. The S20 Ultra is the camera king so far, with an asterisk with the S20 and S20 Plus. How much a difference is there? Pixel binning versus pixel binning. Pixel binning versus non-pixel binning, sorry. How much of a difference is it really making to the heavy lifting to make the S20 Ultra perform as good as it's doing, especially that selfie camera, right? Is pixel binning the future and a way to market your product as a really high top trumps, high juggernaut numbers product that still gives that refined product that looks beyond the numbers, best of both worlds? Or is it really a gimmick and is the difference not really that much? Man, I can't wait for 8K steady shot. Absolutely. Bro, do you know, you laugh, but I need people to clarify on the 8K, because from what I've been hearing, the resolution and the dimensions are correct. It goes up to 24 frames a second, which is usable, but the bit rate is 10 megabits per second. So if the bit rate is 10 megabits per second, I don't think it's good enough. At least if the bit rate on the 4K is 60 megabits per second, from what I've been told, then you should at least be at 120 megabits per second on the 8K. You know, it's hard to do, but I don't know. But we say this, but when the Note 3 came out in 2013, right, which was what, 7 years ago, it had a 4K camera capable of recording 4K video that was overkill and way ahead of its time when everyone had 1080p screens. And you couldn't do the stuff that you're doing with 4K stabilization on a selfie camera. So I can't wait till we get to the point where we can do that. But for now, it's just kind of like a proof in concept-ish. Almost takes me back to Note 3 days, you know? So maybe by the end of the decade, processors would have been more efficient where you're able to do 8K 60 frames a second with stabilization and extended dynamic range. We'll see. But for now, if the bit rate is verified to be only 10 megabits per second, then it's just overly marketing, and it's 60% 8K. When actually, technically, you're probably going to get better 4K image because you have more information going into the resolution and the frame rate that you're recording out. Where the resolution is there, the frame rate is kind of there because it's 24 frames a second, but the data information going in to fill 33 megapixel stills every 24 frames a second, it just isn't there. Imagine, okay, so yo, I know. All I know is when you pick up the Fuji, I look forward to your coverage. Yeah, appreciate it, man. Definitely, I'm definitely gonna pick up. 100% gonna pick it. I'm being serious. Like, I'm getting rid of all my Sony glass, my body accessories to buy it. Fresh start, new year, new house, new camera, everything. Well done, Fuji. That's the kind of smoke that you need to be on to keep competition alive. Imagine the file sizes with proper bitrate. Yes, but I think the file sizes could be reasonable if they actually decide to use H.264, so H.265 compression, high efficiency video codec. If they're using HEVC codec, you'd be surprised that the file sizes will actually be reasonable. You know, it doesn't need to be ridiculous bit rates like, 400 megabits per second. It's not needed. But my argument is, yes, it's 4 times the quality or 4 times the pixel resolution or the pixel information, going from 8.3 megapixels on 4K UHD up to 33 megapixels on 8K UHD. But if the bit rate is 60 megabits per second roughly on the 4K, then at least double it and then put in much better compression with H.265 HEVC to manage the file sizes. That's my opinion. But at 10 megabits per second, I don't know how much. I don't know whether it's because these reviewers have been given a phone, so they don't really want to expose the fact that it's only 10 megabits per second in terms of the codec. But when I'm seeing, I'm like, I was excited for it. I understood the communication of what Samson were talking about, especially being able to pull 33 megapixel stills, whether people have 8K TVs or not. I make the same argument that when they did 4K on the Note 3, no one had 8K TVs until 3 years later, maybe 4 years later even, right? And even then, some people still have 1080p. I'm one of them. But at least then the bitrate was there, I might even see if someone can actually hunt on what the bitrate was on the Note 3 when it first came out. Because I believe the bitrate was probably 20 or 30 megabits per second. But 10 is too low. 10 is too low. Even if they couldn't double it from 60 to 120 megabits per second in terms of the data bitrate, at least 100 megabits per second. At least. With the right compression, it forces, and for that reason, they should have made it a 256 gig UFS 3.0 storage because it can handle the speed as a base storage, and then 512 gig. If not, introduce the 1 terabyte version like what you did with the S10 Plus ceramic. But if you're gonna go all overkill, actually go overkill and just call it a day. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Am I just talking too much as always? Water. Fine. Oh, I feel much better. I'm so glad I mentally pushed myself to make sure that I did the stream. Guys, thank you so much. Any more questions? 2 more minutes. Actually, where are we on? We are on 1 hour, 12 minutes. So 3 more minutes. Once we get the quarter of an hour, 3 more minutes. S10 4K is around 59 megabits per second. Absolutely. That's just my general consensus. So, it doesn't need to be 4 times the data rate. At least double the data rate, even though the pixel resolution has quadrupled 4 times. Yeah, in terms of 2 times vertical, 2 times horizontal, vertical, horizontal. At least try and double, the bit rate. At least get it to somewhere around 100, 120 megabits per second. Yes, it's overkill. Absolutely. Put aggressive compression in there that preserves storage and still keeps a high quality. That's what HEVC is there for. That's what H.265 is there for. I know the compatibility with that codec is complete and utter cluster in terms of system resources, but my argument is, if you're going to go overkill properly, it seems a bit misleading. It seems to me, I defended it, but I'm easy and ready to call out myself for defending it and kind of saying that I get why they're doing it. I don't get why they're doing that at 10 megabits per second. You're going to get better quality. It's going to look better at 4K with that data rate. Facts. I said go overkill, but people complain that it's overkill. People will complain regardless because people are just ungrateful for the progression that's happening, in my opinion. Wait, the 10 megabits per second, isn't that the same bit rate as the Black Shark 2? What was the other phone that shot 8K? Do you think Filmic will be able to pull high? Oh, bro. Now, that's a discussion I like. That is the question of the night. Do you think Filmic will be able to pull higher bit rates via their app? I like that. And the fact that I don't know, I like the fact that I don't know. That's a very, very, very top question. Very top question. Yeah, I don't know what the bit rate is on the Shark phone. That Shark phone was only shooting 15 frames a second 8K. I don't know what the bit rate is, but it's just whatever the bit rate is, the bit rate at 10 megabits per second just doesn't add up. It should have at least been 100 megabits per second, if not double, to kind of compensate in between, right? That, look, this is the starting ground. As heat efficiency and the processing gets better as time goes on, we're going to look to bump it up to 120, 150, 200 megabits per second, 24, 30, and 60 frames a second, and start having the ability to apply optical image stabilization as well as advanced electronic image stabilization to get to the point where we're now able to do what we're seeing. Bro, from when 4K started on main cameras on Note 3, you have selfie cameras on the 11 Pro and the 11 Pro Max, as well as the S20 Ultra, where with the S20 Ultra is able to, by the looks of it, do some form of extended dynamic range, 4K UHD 60 frames a second, with unlimited recording and stabilization in there, with great dynamic range and color rendition and sharpness. Think about the time progression. That can happen with 8K as well. Think the bigger picture. It's overkill now, but I just feel like the starting point this time round is way too low, is too gimmicky and too markety if it's confirmed to be 10 megabits per second. Doesn't sit well with me. Filmic maxes out 150 megabits per second. Okay, it was 15 frames a second on that. I was wondering, okay, thanks for that clarification. That's what we're here for, man. We are here for that, Eric. We are here for the clarification, to have the conversation, have that discussion. That's why I like having the Q&As at the end, man. Makes it exciting. We all learn together. We all vibe together. We all critique together. We all question these companies to improve together. And we get better products quicker and faster at much more competitive and better value price. Ooh. Right. Tune in for Saturday Night Tech Fight. Thanos. The Thanos of Tech YouTube versus Iron Man, a.k.a. Lover of Tech, a.k.a. the Idris Elba of Tech. Saturday night. And the post-mortem and the aftermath will be on next week's Tech and Chill show live on this channel. This is going to be bigger than Fury and Wilder 2. Haha, called it. I'm excited, man. I'm in my feelings and I'm ready to Trenton. Only you can trigger me like this. Only you. You and Adrian. You're like one of only two people that can get me in my feels. So I'm on smoke. But it's all for the friendly bants, man. Saturday night Tech Fight is truly something special. I'll tell you, it takes a thick skin to step into that arena and battle it. Got to battle it, man. String on the emotions of these judges, and I'm already going in. I'm going in. Much love, people. Much love. Thank you for tonight. Thank you for rocking it. Thank you for great questions. I'm feeling so much better. I'm gonna sleep a lot better. Thank you for engaging. I'm gonna give shout outs to people that have been in here, aka Trenton Marshall. Go check him out. The Tech Rant himself, the Thanos of Tech YouTube himself. Eric Drummond was good. Thank you very much for joining, man. Dave West Media, aka the Young Welshman in the house. Thank you very much for joining, man. You guys have been engaging the most. We missed Glenn tonight, unfortunately, because obviously I was on a late one. So apologies, Glenn. Shout out to you if you replay this back. Mr. LB himself, Mr. LeBaron Burton Senior was good. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for showing love. Big bro like Tanner. Tech for your needs. Tech lover mama. Thank you. Have a great Monday week starting. Hope you guys had a great weekend. And I will 100% catch you guys on the next one. Peace.